And we are live! Hi guys, welcome back to Views with Verse, and today I have the lovely Miss Annika from the Sea Priestess with me.
Hello.
And we're going to chat about...
Is it weird? Oh, now it's... Oh, sorry. The live button only just came on in the corner of my screen. So, yeah, hi.
Okay, right. Well, we're ready to go. I don't know if the time is going to make any difference and if people will come in a minute. Fingers crossed. So we usually start off with Views with Verse by asking, what does deity mean to you?
That's a big question.
Nice and easy to get started.
I don't know, because it can mean lots of different things, can't it? But all right, just to me, well, ultimately, it is the universe, the entirety of existence, consciousness, being, all that is, just the undescribable life force and energy, and yeah, all of that.
You can't hear us? Oh dear. Oh dear. Can anybody hear us? I'm going to ask everybody and just see if there's... I could hear it when it started playing, so... The audio is not very good for Annika.
Really?
Or Annika. Well, I can put Annika's volume right up. Right, that's for Annika's volume right up.
Hello?
Is that better?
Does this do anything? Can you hear me?
I think we're better. I think we are. Okay, good. If people can't hear at all, maybe just refresh the video, because that does sometimes happen with Google Hangouts. Okay, good. Right, that's sorted that. Technical issues aside.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, well, Annika's going to shout into her mic, yeah.
Hello!
So, did everybody get what Annika was just saying about the cosmos and everything and energy and all of that with regards to deity? Did we get that? Otherwise, I'm going to ask her to repeat it. So.
Oh, I don't know if I can repeat. Oh.
Tell you what, we'll ask you this. Do you work with deity in the abstract, or do you work with singular deities or an eclectic mixture of deities? Or
Yeah, all of the above. Yes.
Okay, good. That's it. See everybody later.
So we got that. Yeah, sorted. Brilliant. Yeah, no, there's been lots of different forms over the years, and I think, I think the divine can speak to you in different ways, depending on what you're most sort of receptive to at the time. I think it speaks to different people in different ways, and different stages in your life. There'll be different forms that are more appropriate. So there's been lots of different sort of channels, I think, of them as over the years, and it's I don't find myself sort of constricted by, being in one religion versus another, or in one pantheon versus another. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm just sort of, I just say, hey, whoever wants to come through, come through. So that's my attitude.
Hi to everybody who's joining us, because Random's just made it and Matthias has just made it, and we have Dolly Daydream and Pantia and River and Michael and Feathered Theran. I'm probably butchering that. I have stopped watching Salem to watch you both. Well, this is where the real witches are.
Yeah.
Honest.
Might not be quite as dramatic, but...
Well, we could probably get some thunder in here if we try, maybe. So what you're kind of talking about is kind of like the natural progression of spirituality throughout your lifetime, and how that kind of I don't know, kind of evolves maybe as you evolve with your spiritual path, and what is most poignant and important to you at any given point kind of is reflected by your relationship with deity at that point.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like, you know, I don't find myself at any point sort of deciding or choosing a deity. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just they just show up in your life, and you go, all right then.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'll follow you. Where are you going? And yeah, but at the same time, I've always been pantheist, so that's always been the underlying sort of understanding of, you know, the idea that you can experience like a personification at the same time as you can understand something much greater, that doesn't really have a face,
Mm-hmm.
which is yeah, what makes sense to me.
What I was wondering is, because you call yourself the sea priestess and you do a lot of oceanic based work and work with mermaids and water based energies, I guess is a way of saying it. Do you feel like that dictates part of your spirituality? Do you think it's always very much tied to the ocean?
um Dictates, well, here's the thing, yeah. So I live by the sea. I've always lived by the sea, and it's just part of my life, whether, you know, I like it or not. It's there, it's right there. And so I'm like, well, obviously it's going to have some sort of influence, um but it's not um necessarily like the defining character of everything that I do in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just a strong part of, well, it's a huge part of my life, because it's, you know, it's that's just my local environment, as the same as somebody who lives in a desert would, you know, sort of find that that's a huge sort of
Mm-hmm.
aspect of their life. So yes, does that answer your question?
Do you think then that the land that we are living on is naturally tied to how we interact with deity?
Probably. Well, because if you are like me and very focused on nature as divine, then your experience of nature is obviously um, based on the environment that you live in.
Mm-hmm.
So makes sense, doesn't it?
Mm.
I reckon. How's the Scottish environment then?
Oh my God, there's so much wildcrafting here. It's unbelievable.
Oh,
There's
lovely.
so many wild plants, and I live in a city, and there's still so many wild plants everywhere that it's unreal. I mean, I used to live near a woodlands, like on the back step of a woodlands, and I see more wildcrafting here in the city in Scotland than I did where I was before. Like, I've been surrounded by
Oh,
lilac everywhere, and then there's
oh,
hydrangeas everywhere, and I've got about 6 different colors of hydrangeas currently drying out over there. I even found some nightshade, which I've never seen growing
wow,
like just in the wilderness anywhere. I've always had trouble finding them,
wow.
which apparently they don't.
Yeah, I've never seen.
Yeah, I've never seen it in the UK, and apparently it's everywhere in
Yeah.
Australia, because someone was saying last time that I mentioned it. They're like, "Oh, it's everywhere in Australia," and I'm like, "Really?"
Wow.
But I was so excited when I saw these little purple flowers and I knew what they were, and I've been like eyeing the berries until they turn black. So I keep going back and checking on them.
Oh, wow. That's
And then
amazing.
there's trees
So,
everywhere.
oh, um, are you near the coast? Because I'm
Yeah,
not sure.
yeah. For the first time in my life, I actually do live close-ish to the sea. It's about 20-30 minute walk, but that's a lot closer than I've ever lived to the sea ever, because I've always
Oh,
been
so
inland.
lovely. That's
And
the North Sea, isn't it? The
mhm,
North Sea.
yeah, we're pretty
So,
far up north in in Scotland. It's a lot further up north in Scotland than I realised. I was like, oh, it's actually quite big up here. Like, not relative to America or anything, but bigger than you think Scotland is being, and then you're like, oh, it's 8 hours from Yorkshire to here. Okay, by train.
You're like, oh, the Arctic Circle's just there.
But I've been enjoying the temperature a lot more. Like, people moan about it being cold and whatever. I'm like, no, this is good. This is my kind of temperature. And autumn hit last Thursday. Like, you could feel the difference in the air and the smell in the air and everything. It was amazing.
Cool.
So Pantaria says, go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, I feel like there's a little part of me in that area of Scotland, you know. Like, I know I've got like loads of ancestors on that particular bit of coast. It's like a little part of me just connects to that bit.
Well, I didn't think I would, but when I had crossed the border, it felt like coming home. Wow. And I was really actually very surprised by that feeling. I know that one of my ancestors is a Scottish Pict, and so there is ancestry there. And it was really bizarre, though, because I was expecting to feel kind of like a fish out of water, because I've been south-ish for most of my life, or at least East Midlands. And then to come back to Scotland, I feel like it was coming home as a strange feeling.
Beautiful.
So Pantaria says, I feel the same way. I live on an island in the Med and have begun to embrace that the magic done here is different compared to some places. Our nature is different, and that is something to flow with. It's a really interesting point, actually, because I've talked to a few different people who follow the Morrigan, and how where they actually live makes a difference to how they feel they interact with her and the way that they interpret her and such. And sadly, you'll get people who say you're not allowed to follow the Morrigan if you don't live in Ireland, or all the rest of it. Like, I've heard that myself, and I'm like, dude, like, I've got Welsh. I'm half Welsh, apart from anything, and there's all the Celts in Wales, and there's surviving mythology from the Welsh Celts, and they're very closely interlinked. But I've got Irish ancestors too. So it fascinates me, though, to hear how people sort of interact and bring different elements of where they live into their practice. Because being witches, or however you want to describe yourself, it's obviously not always, but largely nature-based. So kind of like the way that we interact with the world around us, which I guess you could say is a reflection of deity, because deity, to my mind, runs through everything, including all the outside, all the nature and things, because I think that's what brings a lot of us to paganism. Are you dropping?
I lost you for a minute then. You sort of froze up a bit. I don't know what happened, but
waffling on. Camera's like, no, shh.
Probably just my terrible internet connection. But I was going to say, that's one of the reasons that I love the sea, is that the sea connects different lands, and I feel like it you know, I feel like I'm connected to various different points in the world through ancestry or through whatever. I don't know, it's just that feeling. And it's like the sea is that connection point that unites all lands around the world, and I think that's sort of something
it's beautiful. Yeah, it's a little bit like it's almost lifeblood in a way when you think about it, because water is what keeps us alive as human beings. We're mostly water. We're cucumbers with anxiety, basically, is what human beings are. And the spiritual significance of water is really well documented. Like, everybody knows, like, ritual bathing, it's the thing. And if you can't ritual bathe, then there's, like, you know, water in a bowl with your hands in salt and things like that. And salt water is considered to be, you know, the coming together of salt and water, both of which are considered to be deeply cleansing. And then, of course, you've got the ocean, which has it naturally. I find the ocean such an enigma as well, because like, there's all this ocean on this planet, and we don't know what's down there.
They say that we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
That's just
Hi to
crazy,
guys that are
isn't
just joining. Yeah, it freaks me out in some ways. It's like, what's down there? Like, when you
it?
sit and really think about it, like there is probably life forms down there that we have no clue about, that are completely alien to us. And it's a fascinating line of thought and it makes you realize how small human beings really are, because we can't survive down there. We can't get down there to investigate even. And it's nice to know in a way, like we're still limited and like we're still progressing. There's still some things that we don't have a harness on.
Yeah, it's like practically a different planet.
Yeah. Pantaria says all the aliens we think are in space. It's like that movie that, oh god, what's it called, where the aliens come up from the bottom of the sea and they fight them with robots. That was
What?
It was a really weird concept of a movie. It was funny, but there's a movie all about it where aliens come from underneath the sea. Someone will know what I'm talking about, maybe. It had Charlie Hunnam. That's why I agreed to go watch it. So, hi, Courtney. We are talking about spirituality, I promise. Pacific Rim, that's it. Pacific Rim, that's it. Everyone go check out Pacific Rim later. It's got Charlie Hunnam.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna go watch.
Anyway, back to spirituality, quick. It's not that great a movie. It's a bit rubbish, but it is kind of like mindless action movie fun if you like that sort of thing. Anyway,
yeah.
So I think there's something humbling about the ocean and how we don't have all the answers, which I think is something good to remember in spirituality too. Yeah. That I think a lot of the time people talk about like they have the answer and the way to do it, and I think it's hubris, really. It's like, no, we don't. There are so many different ways to live and experience and even see deity, even experience deity, that saying like this is the way kind of cuts you off at the knees a little bit and cuts you off to experience.
Yeah, all humans, all silly little humans think they know everything.
Yeah. That's what I say with the Morrigan. Like, I'm like, whenever people are like, this is the way to worship the Morrigan, I'm like, big goddess, little human. Like, come on. Dolly Daydream says, I'd say forest witch, something magical about forest and deep roots connecting. I've always had a thing about oak trees, and I recently found out my Irish surname, Shield of Arms, has an oak tree on it. Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
I love forest.
Mm-hmm.
I do love forest.
Mm-hmm. I think we all do. Like,
forest in my life.
I've not yet to meet a witch or a person of pagan persuasion that doesn't like forests. Now I hate them.
That'd be pretty weird, wouldn't it?
It would be a little bit.
Trees.
Oh, I love trees. I can talk about trees for an hour, but I won't, because that's kind of not what.
Trees are my friends. Yeah, no, that's related. Trees, gods.
Yeah.
No, what's the difference?
And in some ways, the ocean teaches us how we affect things around us just by our ripples, even when we aren't aware of them. Pantareia. What I always like to say about spirituality is I think of, oh, can you still hear me? Because something just went weird with my sound. Okay. Is that spirituality is akin to the ocean and like light on the ocean, and that we can see the light over the top of the ocean, and we can see a little ways down because of the light that pierces into the ocean. But there's all this ocean underneath that we can't see. And that's kind of how I feel about spirituality in general. And if someone's like, please define spirituality for me, I'm like, well, spirituality is an ocean.
Just look at the ocean. Does that answer your question? What are you talking about? Just look at the ocean.
I like to be vague just to, irritate people. So today's
the perfect metaphor, isn't it?
Yeah, hidden depths. Yeah, Dolly, exactly. So today is actually the new moon. So thank you for everybody joining us for the new moon. So I'll ask Annika, do you celebrate the Esbats as part of your spirituality?
Yes. Well, it all depends on what's going on from one moon to the next, doesn't it, really? I mean, I'm not sort of like, no part of my practice is like strict.
Yeah.
Part of it is like regimented. It's like, well, this is what you do every week or whatever. So it's really really depends what's going on. But I do feel like new moons have definitely got that sense of the void, void. And then it's like, okay, what new stuff do we fill into this this new beginning? Yeah, I do think it's a very powerful time, and it's quite exciting, I think.
New moon's my favorite time. I know a lot of witches like the full moon, but every time the full moon gets here, I'm like, I'm so tired. This full moon is making me tired. I want to sleep. Whereas at new moon, I feel pretty energized. I feel pretty like, yeah, limitless possibility. Let's go. And it's kind of like a dark goddess time as well. I feel like was to come into the new moon. It's kind of a dark goddess energy.
It's like the new moon is a time of rest, and because you're well rested, you feel like you've got more energy. And then like the full moon is a time of like energy, but because there's so much energy, you feel exhausted. And it's like, how do you find the balance in both of those times? I think that's what happens.
Okay, so Luna Mars has a question. Yesterday a bat was on my doorstep. I guess it hit a window or something. Would you say that is a type of message? I don't work with a specific goddess or energy.
Yeah, because a while ago I had an encounter with bats as well, and they were just flying all around me, and it was the first time I'd ever sort of come into close proximity with bats before, and I was like, what the hell is going on? This has got to be a sign. Definitely a sign. And I think it's a sign of death, really. Death for new beginnings, I think, is the
especially if it was dead on your doorstep.
Yes.
So Luna says, I'm new to this and I don't know if everything is a message or a coincidence. Okay, so the thing that I would say about synchronicity, which is how people sort of define what a message is, like from the universe, versus coincidence. So synchronicities tend to be a group of things that all sort of, you can't maybe fully explain. It wasn't dead. Okay. Sorry, it was hurt. Okay, I'll get to that bit in a minute. But if there's a few different little things that kind of seem to link up to you and you're not quite sure why they link up, but they kind of do, and then you go and research them and, oh, they suddenly are all in line with that. That's kind of what synchronicity is like. And when things are very out of the norm.
I think you know it by how it feels, don't you? Like, you know when it feels like it's a message.
Quite often when it's strange, like it sticks in your mind, like, and you notice it. That's quite generally like, and that tends to be what a coincidence. Sometimes I think we have to be careful not to give every little thing spiritual meaning, because obviously you're going to see more of a certain type of animal if they live in your area, for example, versus like there are seagulls everywhere here right now because I'm much closer to the sea than I've ever been. But that to me is more to do with where I'm living rather than particular messages. But given that you thought to even ask people, does this mean something, is probably a good indicator that it means something. Okay, so bats are nocturnal. They also have high sensitivity with how they see the world. It's through sonar, and they have high hearing. So it may well be that it's about opening you up to listening to messages. Because it's in your doorway. And what's a doorway? It's a beginning. It's a place where you open something up to go through it. And if you're new to this path, it might very well be just like, open the door, start, and listen. So it could just be something like that. They do have a kind of gothic death energy as well, like Annika mentioned, which of course you need a death energy for a beginning energy, because when one thing ends, another begins. So
releasing, letting go, and allowing yourself to start something new.
You can also look up into like totem energies of bats and things. There are plenty of resources. whatsyoursign.com is really good for animal totem. I will write that in the thing, actually. I think it's What's Your Sign. I think it's that.com, and they have some good info on what animal totems are and things. Okay. Sidetracking, but there we go. We helped someone, so that's all good. Where were we before that? We were talking about ocean, forests and trees. Forests and trees and nature. And new moon.
Nature is the big one, isn't it?
Mm. Do you feel like nature helped lead you into this walk of life? Do you think that's one of like the key things that connected you to paganism?
Yes, definitely. Yes, that I think. Well, I mean, like when I first started looking into this word paganism and like, what's that? What is that? And all of the first sort of things that I was reading about was like nature. Oh, it's all about people who love nature, and I'm like, yes, that's it. Love it. So that's definitely what sort of drew me into looking into that whole sort of area of religion, definitely.
Yeah. So Josie B asked me if I have a new moon ritual. So much like Annika, I'm a little bit chaotic in how I do ritual, because if I do the same thing over and over again, I get bored. Like
it makes it stale.
I can't do it. And this is like the most unvogo thing about me. I'm like, no, everything just has to be fly by the seat of my pants in ritual, because otherwise it doesn't feel like it's significant. It doesn't feel like it's sacred if I've like planned it down to the nth letter. No, I don't like that.
Yeah.
But generally
Maybe
speaking,
that's like your moon sign.
My moon's Taurus, so I don't know. It might be all the Leo underneath, because I've got like loads of Leo on the other houses. So it might be that, like, yeah, we do it like this all the rest of the time. We're not doing it for spirituality, no. But I used to cleanse all of my black crystals at the new moon, and charge them, because they say, charge all your crystals at the full moon. And I was like, well, it makes more sense to me to like charge and cleanse my dark crystals, so like my obsidians or my jets or my tourmalines and things, at the new moon, because of the energies that they cross over into. So I used to sort of charge those at the new moon and then do the rest of them at the full moon. I do things for Morrigan at the new moon as well, and I set intentions. Usually that's something that I do most new moons, is this is my intention for the month. So I know that's not hugely specific, but it really depends on where I'm at and what the energies are like. And yes, and it's almost autumn equinox as well, of course. So Kisun has just mentioned that. So my friend and I decided to honor the new moon as well as celebrate the equinox by going outside to do some magic. We decided to set up at a 3-way crossroad in the country at the side of a field. That sounds amazing. I never see crossroads in country fields and things. I never see crossroads. I'm like, do I live in like the most straight-lined fields that are going? There's like corners, but that's not right. You can't hear Annika.
All around me.
Really?
Oh, who can't hear me?
Josie B says she can't hear you. Annika said that very much similar to me about new moon rituals. She was saying that it depends on the energies and which kind of new moon it is, and so on and so forth. So new moon is great for cleansing and uncrossing yourself as well, says Michael. It is indeed. So have you got any plans for autumn equinox as part of your spirituality, Annika? Yeah.
Oh my God. Honestly, I don't even like, my life is just like...
I know that feeling. I've turned Annika's volume up way up, so I'm not sure what else we can do.
What is it? Is it something to do with my what happens when I unplug my Make it worse? Is it better or worse? Better or worse?
I think you're quieter. What do you guys think? And I can hear me.
Not good, is it? Right, I'm gonna plug it back in. I don't know.
I'll have a double check on the control room, but I can still hear me, Annika.
Yeah, sorry.
No, Annika's turned up all the way, so she should be louder than me, theoretically.
Hello. Can you hear me? Yeah, so plans, no plans. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy here too.
Yeah. I've got a job interview on that day, so all depends on what happens on that day.
Yeah,
really.
we have a funeral that we may or may not be attending, so it's a very strange one this year. I mean, I feel sorry for the autumn equinox because on the one hand, I freaking adore the autumn, so I'm super excited. But then on the other hand, you're already like, it's nearly Halloween.
Yeah.
And I always feel a bit sorry for the autumn equinox because you're already in like Halloween mode by the time that autumn equinox gets here.
I think, but autumn equinox does have a little bit of Halloweeny vibe to it. It's like a little mini Halloween.
And what I will do,
step one.
yeah, and what I always do is I take apple slices down to the graves on autumn equinox. So I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about this or not before. I have talked about it numerous times, but I take apple slices particularly for the forgotten dead. So for all the gravestones that look like they've been abandoned or like are in disrepair and stuff, and I always take apple slices for them. And I used to do it in my old one. I used to do roses at Beltane and apple slices at autumn equinox. And it's something about giving back to the forgotten dead and those people who have lived and had these lives and loves and all these adventures, and yet now nobody's celebrating that at all, and the graves are going out of disrepair. And I always felt very strongly about honouring the forgotten dead at autumn equinox. So that's something I'll do.
I want to go apple picking. Oh my god! I was just saying to my mum. Actually, my mum was saying to me. She was like, "Let's go apple picking for autumn equinox." And I'm like, "Yes, let's make our own cider." Yes.
They do a lot of that, yeah. Much further south, where is it? Is it Somerset where they have like the scrumpy thing and they all like go into the fields and they have like hot cider and stuff? That sounds amazing. I've never done that.
I've never gone scrumping, but I hear that's something that people do in the countryside. I've never lived in the countryside, so I don't know what they do in the countryside. Apparently that's a thing, scrumping. That's all scrumping. So, but I just go down to my local common. I'm quite lucky. I've got common ground with some just apple trees that just, they're just there for everyone. Go help yourself to some apples, free apples. It's amazing.
So Agus says that he loves going apple, peach, or pumpkin picking this time of year. Gosh, I don't think I've ever seen peaches in the wild.
Picking peaches?
Wouldn't peach be a bit earlier than apples? I don't know, but because I don't think I've ever seen a peach tree in the wild.
I know, but actually, maybe they're about the same time as plums, because plums are done in like.
Oh yeah, but plums are late summer, early September time. Yeah. Lots of cider apples in Somerset. It's almost time for Apple Day, where we scare off the bad spirits around the apple trees for a good harvest next year. I love that about Somerset. You guys are amazing. That was Liz. I look at that every year and I'm like, I want to go scare off the bad spirits around the apple trees. That's so cool. And Courtney said, I have an apple orchard up the road from me. I'm going to use them in her autumn equinox dinner. And she's having a feast this year for autumn equinox. That's amazing. Jilsey says, your love of Halloween is fun and all your new candles are awesome. Oh, thank you. We've done quite a few new ones this year for Halloween. Peaches are big in the southern US. They're definitely in season now, says Michael. Oh, well, there you go. I didn't know that. And hello to inspiration. I didn't know about peaches. I don't think I've ever seen a peach tree, like in real life. It's not a thing in the UK, as far as I know. Like, not commonly, anyway.
No, I don't think you can grow them here, really.
I'm probably too cold. Yeah.
I haven't seen any. Apples and pears.
Apples, pears, and plums. Yeah, all kinds of different apples. Thinking about it, because we had lots of crab apples in when I was in Cambridgeshire. and plums, actually. Cool. So I'm gonna put it to chat that if you want to ask me or Annika any questions about spirituality, start thinking them up now, because we are approaching the 20-minute to done mark. So if you have any questions, pop them in there. Yeah. And I will put them to, I will answer them, or I'll put them to Annika for you guys. So some people are still having trouble hearing you.
Oh no, what? I really hope it's
I can hear you okay, so I'm not sure what it is.
It's weird.
I know some people have had trouble on mobile phones today. Michael creates a nefarious plot to send Joey a peach pie with cinnamon crumble crust. That sounds amazing.
Oh, that sounds good.
Because I like apple crumble for autumn equinox with cinnamon.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, what about rhubarb?
Oh yeah. Mm.
Oh.
I quite often do apple and blackcurrant as well, because that's quite nice.
Yeah.
What a strange way. We're talking about spirituality. Pie.
Well, it's equinox. It's party time of year.
Mm. Is it what's your favorite time of year then, seeing as people are going on about how much they love autumn?
May. Actually,
May. The Beltanes spring into summer times.
Yes, but also this time of year. But you know, how can you pick a favorite, really? I mean,
I can really easily, like autumn.
Really? Okay. Just autumn. Yeah, but I really love that time of year when all the blossoms are out, when all the trees are covered in blossom. I love that. It's so beautiful. But then all the trees being covered in like autumn leaves is kind of similar. So spring and autumn.
The entire chat, people are going on about food now.
Pie.
Strawberry rhubarb pie, apple crumble, pumpkin animal, cinnamon, everything.
Oh my god. Pumpkin pie, everybody. Pumpkin pie.
I've never really had pumpkin pie. Because with the pumpkins, I harvest all the seeds and then dry them out and then use them in like spellcrafting and stuff.
But you haven't eaten it?
I'm making apple cinnamon muffins. Dreamer of Colors, I need you to send me an apple cinnamon muffin.
Pumpkin pie or pumpkin soup. Pumpkin curry. Oh, I miss having a garden.
To answer Agus, the leaves in Europe do change to red, orange, and yellow. We get all the colours in Europe. Europe is big autumnal colours. I will take pictures when we have some, because they've just started turning in Scotland.
Yeah, it's only just turning.
Yeah.
It's barely even turning down here in England. So yeah.
But I will take some. I'll take some pictures.
November is when it's really. That's when it's more yellow, isn't it? Or at least it is down here. Probably it'll be winter by that time in November. No leaves left.
So do you connect with deity and do ritual and things for all the Sabbats? Is that part of your spiritual practice?
Oh, yes. Can I say, like, you know, that's just, I don't, if that's just something that happens all the time, really. I mean, it's not like I'm only a witch on the Sabbats and Espers. You know, the altar's always there, so it's whenever I feel that it's got to be done. It's got to be done. You know, you just follow what you feel, really.
Oh yeah.
That's why I'm so sea witchy. Is I'm just like, I'm all about going with the flow, the water.
Going with the flow. Ebb and tides. I think it's a really great way to be. Yeah. I think it's probably to be in touch with the energies around you and like nature around with you and connect to spirituality that way makes more sense to me than any other, because that's kind of like you're going with what the energies of what is around you, and it has that so within, so without kind of feel.
I like to do things like completely intuitively. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's better to try not to think about it and try not to plan it too much, and just allow yourself to shut that part of your brain off and just go like, all right, just let yourself be led into
Yep.
what it is that you're going to be doing. Like, oh, okay, now I'm picking up this and now I'm doing that, and you just allow it to sort of naturally sort of flow.
Absolutely. I think it's the best way to do it.
I
And
think that's the
to,
most potent, like magical, like
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's powerful. That is.
Okay, so Inspiration has a question. I have a family of deities that have gathered around me during my practice. Morrigan as a mother guide figure, Odin as a father figure, and some deities that stay on the sidelines and pop in now and again. How can I figure out or confirm who my matron and patron deity are?
Oh, forget about it. Forget about it. Don't even worry about, oh, is so and so my matron, so and so my patron. I don't understand why people get so obsessive about having to select, like the idea that you must select a man and a woman, a male and a female. Like you have to. Like that's
Yeah.
ridiculous to me.
Well, I consider
Like,
Morrigan to be both masculine and feminine, so I don't do that. I worked in the abstract for a very long time. I mean, the Morrigan was always there, and I always prayed, if you like, or spoke to or communed with Mother, and I didn't know who she was until I asked. And Annika's absolutely right. If you're worried about it vastly, I would try and figure out why you're worrying about it. Like, is it something you've been told you should worry about? And if that's the case, work in the abstract for a while and see how you feel about it. If it's something you feel you deeply need, then I would just ask, light a candle and ask. That's what I always say to people. Look at the synchronicity around you, look at all the signs you're getting, looking at your dreams, etc., and see what the messages are that you are getting. But ultimately, try not to stress about it too much. Try not to put too much of an emphasis on it. Yeah.
Yeah. Let go and just let it come to you instead of like constantly sort of like scratching away, going, oh God, I gotta figure it out. Just let it come to you.
And Michael does say that in his experience, Morrigan and Odin do work together. If they or one of them claim you, then they'll answer. So a lot of people actually do work with Odin and Morrigan, which has always been it was always very interesting to me. But then I think the Nordic and Celtic path lines have crossover.
Definitely.
They have a lot of... Go on. Go on. No, go on. It's your hour, go on.
No, it's not my hour. Yeah, no, they're very similar sort of thing going on with both of them. I wouldn't be surprised, if they were like brother and sister or something. Honestly, cousins at least,
And don't forget that there's almost certainly interaction between the two peoples. Like they traveled, they went on boats, there was like marriages, breeding over and all sorts. So yeah. Breeding. And Luna Mars asks, what's a good way of connecting with a dark goddess? Well, firstly, kill the phrase dark goddess if you can, because I use it because I feel like I kind of have to, because it's easier to describe what I mean, but it drives me crazy because there is no such thing as a dark goddess. Like there is just goddess, and they work within different energies, sure, and they have different personalities, sure, but that doesn't make one dark, and what is dark anyway? So basically you're connecting to goddess energy, not just dark goddess energy. And they're not like scary, they're not like, I don't know, the things that we associate dark with. If you're associating dark with the nighttime, then okay, that's fair enough. But like the general stereotype that gets attached to dark, don't go there. Just come back to that space and just again open yourself up and ask would be what I would say. So Isla wants to ask, do we schedule your spell work around lunar cycles, solar cycles, or is it more spontaneous?
Well, I think there's definitely a huge amount of spontaneity involved, but at the same time, say you're thinking to yourself, oh, you know, it would be really helpful if I did like a spell for this, that, or the other. Then you might think to yourself, oh, well, actually, looking at the stars, the planets, what's going on here, this particular time would be the most sort of effective time to do that. So, yeah. So that is obviously like a huge part of, like, you know, timing. You can figure out how to utilize different energies.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I find that what we were talking about earlier, which is the intuitive way of doing things, if I look to do a spell and then I'm like, oh, I need to look up this, that, and then they'll all align. Like, I've had times where I've been like, oh, this is actually the perfect day to be doing it.
yeah.
And like my intuition basically told me to do it, that spell today. And then I look it up and, oh, last time I remember it being quite vivid. It was for money, and there was energies of Taurus, and there was this, that, and the other, and it was all like lined up perfectly. And I was like, okay, my intuition works so good. So
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, when you do something and then later you look it up and you do a little bit of research and you're like, oh shit, I didn't even realize.
that was super witchy, and I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I love that.
But don't forget, you can always tweak spells. So if you desperately need to do a particular kind of spell and you feel like it's the wrong moon phase, so you want to do prosperity magic and it's a waning moon phase, and you're like, but I can't wait, then just change the way you're doing the spell, and then you waning away poverty, waning away the problem that you need the money for, and that kind of circumvents it. So you can always like tweak spells depending on what time of the month or lunar cycle it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's just about being aware of what you're working with, isn't it?
Hmm. So I think shattered glass, we kind of addressed the best way to. No, and to Luna, I know you didn't mean dark in a bad way. Don't be sorry. I was just like putting it out there because I know that, you know, some people hear dark goddess and think it's different. So I think we addressed the best way to really approach deity, which is mainly just to ask and listen, really, is the main advice. Yeah.
Be open to whatever's going to come your way.
Mm-hmm. So Liz asks, if deity is just energy, does it matter if the pantheons are mixed up? Isn't it us that puts all the definitions on them? Do you want to answer that one?
Yeah, well, what does that even mean, though? Mixing them up, like, you know.
Well, taking deities from completely different pantheons, like if you were taking like an Indian deity and then like a Celtic deity,
yeah, are you taking them, or are they visiting you?
Yeah.
You know.
So what I say about this is, and when we limit ourselves to one pantheon, and I understand that people do it for simplicity's sake, but when people feel drawn to different energies, you have to remember that most of us believe in reincarnation. So who's to say we weren't at some point, take the Indian example, we weren't in India and working with particular deities or particular energies at that point in that incarnation, and there's then in this incarnation, like there's a vibration back to that, so that comes naturally to us. And
totally possible.
There, you know, because what people usually do with this, and when people are like pantheon, this pantheon only, it tends to unfortunately border on like racist argument, like bloodline argument, unfortunately. And I'm like, well, apart from anything at this point, we've probably all got something of all of us in our bloodline. If you go like have a blood test and you find out all the different energies that you've got in like all the different places your bloodline is, it's crazy. Like people have had their bloodlines and they've got blood from all over the world, because we're not insular anymore. Like,
no, when have we ever been, really? You know?
No. And the idea that there's these borders and people never cross over them at any point in history is crazy. Like
insane. If we're cut off from everybody else, then we die. You know, that's how to kill humans, cut them off from everybody else.
Yeah.
Just let them become so inbred that they just become diseased and just, you know,
die off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And ultimately, nobody has any right to tell you how you can or cannot worship a certain way. I understand with people wanting to be respectful of different peoples, of different cultures and things, but I think when you get to the point of pagan practice, people who are working with deity are working with them like in the sacred. That this is deeply important to them. They're not like putting a hat on for the sake of I'm going to a party or anything like that. This is in their sacred space. This means a lot to them on like a soul level and on an emotional level and things like that. And so it's not like you just, for the most people, it's not like just cherry picking and things. It's actually part of a deep spiritual path working. So as long as it means something to you, I wouldn't worry about what anyone else says. And I know it's a difficult thing to get your head around, because to this day I'm still getting my head around it, and there are still times when people are like, how dare you work with a Morrigan, you stupid English whatever, and sometimes it still gets to me, and I'm like but overarchingly, just if it means something to you, then that's the important part, I would say.
Yeah, it's not really anybody else's business anyway, is it?
You
judge it, tell them to keep mind their own business. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay, I hope that answered that question. We're about on time. Is there any last questions for Annika before I let Annika go? It's been a strange conversation. we've had pie and deity. Deity and pie. I might just change the title of it. Deity and pie.
Deity is like a pie.
Well, what?
You can cut
Everybody wants a bite. Yeah, anyway. Michael, people who deal in absolutes aren't worth listening to. Only Siths deal in absolutes, Michael. Only Siths.
Oh, wait. Do you know what? Deity is like a pie, because you can have one big pie, or you can have lots of little slices of pie.
It's all cooked up together anyway.
You could have just one slice, or you can have loads of slices if you want.
There we go. We've made pie spirituality analysis.
That's how you tie it together. In conclusion,
spirituality is pie. That's what we have learned today.
Forget about the ocean. It's pie. It's all about pie.
And ice cream. Yeah. Michael says we need ice cream with our spiritual pie. Okay, all the slices. Each slice is deity. Yep. That's it. We've gone with the analysis now.
So much sense.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Annika for joining me today on this googly hangout talking about pie. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about that you've got coming up on your channel, or in general for people to look out for?
Oh, well, to be honest, I don't know, guys. I don't know. I don't know what to say. Like, I've been really, this whole new moon is like, I'm feeling like I don't know where we're going now. I don't know where we're going or what's gonna happen, but I do feel like there's some big changes sort of coming, and so I think whatever happens, it's not going to be the same. Something different. So I don't know what it is though. Sorry, I can't predict what it is, but it's going to be different. Cool. So I hope you enjoy that.
Well, the thing that I've got coming up next is going to be on the Starry-Eyed blog for you guys. It's going to be talking about new moon energies and autumn equinox energies, and kind of feeling out how I feel that those energies have kind of been. And we've kind of been looking at obligations, because I feel like there's this weird energy making you look at where you're obligated, and like being obligated to yourself to be good to yourself, and instead of not good to yourself. So there's an energy of that going around. So that will be on the blog soon for you guys. I'm not sure what's happening for the rest of the week, because we're all a bit up in the air at the minute. Hopefully Chris and I will be talking again this week. Hopefully I'll get my video rendered this week, and that will get up this week as well. And that's all about self-sabotage, and healing self-sabotage. So that should be hopefully this week. So thank you to Miss Annika for joining me.
Thank you.
All of her links are down below. if you guys don't know where to find Annika, which I'm sure you do at this point, but just in case, all the links are down below. So thank you very much to Miss Annika, and thank you for the guys in the chat. Chat was awesome tonight. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about pie and food in general. Okay, so see you guys next time and have a good one.
Bye-bye.